Hello and welcome to the 1010 podcast with Andrea McKee. On this podcast, we zoom in really micro and we zoom out really macro because the goal here is to say, am I on the right path for my life and how I want my life to go? And if I am, then let's keep going, let's keep doing it. And if I'm not, then let's be brave enough to pivot. Because as far as we know, we have one life to live. And that is now. So there is no better time than now to choose what is next. The reason I am calling this podcast 1010 is because I am a mirror of you and you are a mirror of me. And every single person can learn something from another person. And when we are open to reflecting on our lives, man, that's when the good stuff happens. P.S. 1010 is my birthday, so it is my favorite number. Let's dive in. You know what's been on my mind lately? This idea of letting go. In fact, it's been a theme throughout my entire life. And I have sometimes wondered why it's been such a prominent theme. I mean, I've even written a song about it, which I'll probably share at the end because, why not? From the time that I was in college, I began exploring this idea, especially because there was this guy that I really, really liked. I genuinely imagined my life at the time could be with him. If you want to hear that entire story, you can go listen on episode 24, where I talk about letting go and how that is the secret to manifestation. When I think about letting go, there are a lot of life experiences that I've had that really dive deep into this idea and why it's so specifically important for me. And if it's important for me, then I'm sure there are some takeaways that you'll find as well. But the first story of my life that I want to explore is actually a really recent one. And my parents both passed away in the year 2024. My mom had kidney failure in October of 2023, which was very unexpected, but crazy enough. Like, you know how last episode I talked about intuition and the value of you're on the right path, doing the right thing. And sometimes you feel this feeling of indecision, like you can't decide what to do and you don't know why, you can't just decide. That happens to me a lot. So when I say a lot, it happens to me when I'm not supposed to decide yet. So for my 40th birthday, I was planning like a getaway with girls. I had a few friends in mind that I thought would be amazing to have together. I told a few of them about it, and then I kind of ghosted them without intentionally doing it. I was, going through a lot. I was very overwhelmed with motherhood, and my husband was traveling quite a bit because he does that for a job. And I really didn't have secured in my life a support system while he was away. So I just tended to feel generally overwhelmed. I was trying to figure out things I could do that would help me feel less overwhelmed. But I ended up kind of just not responding to them. And then my 40th birthday, like a month before, if not sooner, I was like, I'm going to Sun Valley, Idaho. I just need to get into the mountains. I'm from Idaho, and Sun Valley is where I've had, my dad worked as a ski bus driver in Sun Valley many, many years ago when I was a child, and I would go to work with him sometimes. Sun Valley is very beautiful place, nice, cute town, very fancy, elite sort of vibe. But it also has over 30 miles of paved trails. And I love bike riding. I love it so much. And this is what I love in the fall, because autumn is my favorite season. Obviously 10/10 is my birthday. So October, it's just, vibes all around. I love autumn. So I was imagining the pine trees with the aspen trees, yellow aspen trees in the fall against the deep green pine trees. And I was like, Sun Valley needs me. I need Sun Valley. I have a really good friend out there, and I was looking forward to visiting her as well. So there were all these poles out there, but mostly just the mountains of Idaho, because my dad was a logger. So I grew up going to the mountains, getting firewood with my dad and my brothers and my sister. And I mean, lots of just deep memories and core life experiences of working hard and lifting heavy things came from those mountains, the Sawtooth Mountains. So while I was in Sun Valley, I got a call that my mom had kidney failure and that she was being transported to the hospital. And that hospital was 3 hours away from where I was at in Sun Valley. And I realized in that moment, so I dropped everything that I had planned and I drove to see her out there. And I realized in that moment that my indecision was not because I couldn't decide. It was because I needed to go see her, but I could not have known that was what needed to happen. If I had had a different girls' trip somewhere else in Costa Rica, which I was thinking of doing, I couldn't have gotten to her. And I am a relationship person, like the top of my list are relationships. Deep, meaningful relationships. I will always spend time toward the people that I love. That's where I want to put my time and energy. That's honestly one of the reasons I would love being a stay-at-home mom for the most part. I mean, it's hard too, like anything is. So anyway, she had been in the hospital. I am one of those people who if I really care about somebody, I want to be there for them. Not in a way that like overextends myself and I feel like depleted. Not in that way, but like in a way that I want to spend the moments that I have while I have them. So I got to see her. I ended up, spending a day out there and then going back. And honestly, my drive there was just spectacular. Everything turned out so beautifully. And then 5 months later, she passed away, which I also did not see coming. So I didn't see coming until just a couple weeks before she passed. And so this is where I'm going to share some of her experience in death, because it was really powerful for me to see the value of those final moments of her letting go. This is where it ties back into this theme, is in order for her to be able to pass on to the next stage of her existence, which I personally believe that we have a soul. And that soul moves on. I don't know if it stays in the same form, like that, if she'll look like she did in her prime or if she looks like she does now. I have no idea how that works, or if it sort of goes into energy, like a cup of water. When you're born, you pick a cup of water out of the ocean and you are that cup. And then when you die, you pour that cup of water back into the ocean and become part of the energetic field that we all exist in, which we absolutely do. That's the way I feel based on my own life experiences. And I really saw her struggle because she had a couple of kids that she needed to know were okay. And the hospice nurse told us that, to please get, if you can get those people on the phone, let them know, let her know that, they can let her know that they'll be okay after she passes and that she can move on. So my mom had basically decided to go off of dialysis after she had fallen and hurt herself. And then it was just such a struggle to get up and go to dialysis. It was so hard. She struggled physically. She was in so much pain. And then we let her know, we let her know in a family meeting that if she decided to go off dialysis, that we would respect that and we would support her in whatever way that she wanted to, because it was just so painful for her to get there. And by this time, she had no quality of life because she had fallen and hurt herself and basically lost the majority of her muscle in like the matter of a week. She just couldn't get out of bed for even basic things. It was a pretty quick decline. So the last 3 days of her life, my brother and I went and spent with her. And it really was one of the most beautifully spiritual, deep connective experiences of my life. It was just, my brother and I played music, like really beautiful music for her. I had written a song for my son like a couple months prior when he went to preschool for the first time, and it was called Goodbye for Now. But for some reason I had included some of the things in there, like Toodaloo Kangaroo, because my mom used to do that when I was a kid. She would say Toodaloo Kangaroo, and she'd say see you later alligator, after a while crocodile, and I loved that, so I included that into the song. And I've done that with my kids, to say those things. And so I just played that song for her a lot when she was in this phase of needing to go to the next stage of her existence. But we got her sister on the phone, her brother on the phone, extended family on the phone, called and said goodbye. Like and then the two kids who we knew she was concerned about, got them on the phone, and literally after all of the people she got to say goodbye to, and that they got to tell her that they'll be okay and that she can go to the next stage. I would stroke her hair and massage her feet, and she was quite the loving healer herself. I remember she would give me feet massages if I was really stressed, or she would give me back massage or something like that. She was very, very sweet, and she was very much into herbs and healing and natural healing. And so I really wanted to give back to her in that way. And honestly, it helped me in the letting go process too. And by the time, in the evening, I said to her, Mom, I know you can do this. I know you can let go, and you're free to let go. We love you so much. And we will, I said to her, I'm like, if you want to come and tell me what it's like over there, I would love for you to do that. And I had told her that when she was still pretty aware, and she laughed at that. She thought that was great. And I just said, no, I'm being serious. I'm like, I'm very curious about what it's like. And that night after she had spoken to everybody that she needed to, she passed. And I had a dream about her. And in fact, I've had a lot of dreams about her since, and I'll share them with you sometime. I have a whole podcast episode dedicated to dreams, because my dad then passed like 5 months later, unexpectedly. And I have some theories on that, which I will get into at some point. But I have an episode planned on dreams, and I have an episode planned on death. I feel that death is the ultimate form of letting go. So my husband's granny helped raise him, and one of the things that he admired so much about her is in her later years, she would give her things away. And she gave to him a KitchenAid, which we still have. She got like in 1976, and we still have and use every day almost. But she gave that to him as part of her letting go process. She was giving away her things to her kids and grandkids. And I know some people, this idea that you come in with nothing and you leave this world with nothing, but it's you don't leave this world with nothing, but you kind of do. So like when we have these relationships that we have, and that is the most important thing that we have. However, as I have done more studying about death, I even think that sometimes we need to let go of those relationships. And, I grew up with the idea that families can be together forever if everybody keeps the commandments. Well, now I don't think that that's actually true. I don't think that you have to keep the commandments in order for families to be together forever. But I also have questioned the idea of whether families even need to be together forever. And the reason why I've questioned that is because I think of like the different stages of my life. Like when I left high school, I decided that I was going to go to a school where I didn't have any friends and I didn't know anyone. I wasn't necessarily doing that on purpose, but I was actually thrilled about it because I got to go and just create a life that I could do brand new without people knowing everything about me. And I didn't even think everybody knew everything about me, but in high school did feel a bit like I was living a double life because I grew up, on like a junkyard and with no electricity and no phone. And I was very embarrassed by it. And I wasn't allowed to go and hang out with friends, except for on the weekends when we would go to church dances. But by the time I went to college, I was actually thrilled to go live a different life. And I think if your life is perfect and you love everything about it here, then maybe you do want to, and of course you love your family, maybe you do want to see them, and maybe you do decide, hey, I'm going to come back and hang out with them because I really like them. So maybe that's why in spirit, many people do stay and stick around for a long time hanging out with their family members, and they watch over them because they want to continue to spend part of their existence with them. And I do wonder that. But then maybe, generation after generation, I don't know, maybe they decide, hey, I'm going to go and do something else now. Or maybe they continue to hang around with future generations. But for example, when I left high school, I did keep in touch with maybe one or two friends, but the majority of people I didn't. And then when I left college, I kept in touch with maybe one or two friends, but the majority of the people I didn't. And when I left and moved to a different city and started teaching elementary school, then I stayed in touch with maybe one or two people. And basically every single stage of my life, when I moved to a different place, I am letting go of the location. I'm letting go of the people, except for maybe one or two people. I'm letting go of the beautiful memories. I'm holding on to the joy that I felt from them, but I'm literally moving on from everything and letting everything go in order to fully embrace my new experience. And after my experience with my mom and her knowing and feeling a sense from her kids that they would be okay, my mom didn't have the easiest of lives. In fact, her life was pretty hard. She never got the dream house that she wanted. And I know, you don't get your dream house, first world problems. I get it. She didn't have a husband who fully embodied love for her. And she didn't have, just her later years were just tough. She was helping kids who needed a lot of help. She was helping grandkids. She was doing what she wanted to be doing. I think I'm a lot like my mom in that way. She wanted to give her time and energy to the people that she loved. She wanted to give it to her kids. And in this case, it wasn't always for her best interest, but it's how she wanted to spend her time. And for that, I respect her choice in her existence. And so when she did move on to the next stage, when she finally was able to let go and let her soul move on from her body, I do wonder. I do think she has spent time with me. I do feel that. I do feel I saw her essence everywhere. And when I say essence, oh my gosh, I cannot wait for this episode on death, because I believe death is such a beautiful thing when it is in the context of growing into the next phase of existence. And I do miss my mom. I miss her. Not every day, not all day, but I think about her every day. And it's not like I think about her like I'm sitting there thinking about her. She passes my mind regularly. And for the first year, I would frequently break down and cry, but sometimes I do now still. There's a duality in me thinking that death actually is such a beautiful journey. And it's also sad when people are not in physical presence anymore. And do you know what I think actually was the thing that prepped me the most for being able to really settle into those last 3 days with my mom? I had just had a psychedelic therapy session, and I will dive into that on another episode. It has changed my life in so many ways. It's deepened my life experiences, deepened my understanding. It's deepened my perspective of the world. And it's helped me heal through many of my life experiences. So that's something that I will talk about on a different episode, and I'm pretty stoked about that as well. So the way that death requires us to let go it's an interesting thing to consider. And so I will address more of that in that death episode. But for now, I want to go to the next life story that I think about, which has been recent in letting go. And it is in regards to selling a house that was sort of the pinnacle of my life experience in general. I've had a lot of really amazing life experiences, but when my husband and I moved from California while I was pregnant with our first child, and we landed in Arvada, Colorado. I don't know why I just said Arvada. I never call it Arvada. It's actually not Arvada. It's Arvada, which is so American. Arvada, like Nevada. Anyway, we lived there for about 2 years. And that's where we had our first child, literally a week after we moved into the home. And it was right on a lake with a beautiful sunroom. I mean, it was gorgeous. Every morning, a fire sunrise appeared in the sky. It was just magnificent. And then every day there were new little animals on the lake. We'd get a pelican, and we'd get different types of birds. We would, even in winter time, there was a coyote out on the frozen lake in the middle of the lake, and we'd get geese, and the geese were annoying because they'd poop everywhere and we'd have to walk around it when we'd walk around the lake, because we walked around it about 1,500 times or more. But it really was the most magical time of my entire life. I grew up reading Anne of Green Gables, and I don't know who here knows and loves Anne of Green Gables, but if you do, then please make a comment in the Spotify that you are an Anne of Green Gables fan, because in Idaho and Utah, I think it was a big deal. I think a lot of the people there read it, but in California have not met very many people that have read it. So I'm curious who knows and loves Anne of Green Gables. My grandmother, who lived to be almost 101, gave me the Anne of Green Gables book set because I loved Anne of Green Gables so much. And I absolutely still love it. I've been out to Lucy Maud Montgomery's home on the Prince Edward Island and up in Canada. I mean, it's just so beautiful. I love that story. And when I think about Anne with her Lake of Shining Waters, that was me. That Meadow Lake Park was my Lake of Shining Waters. It is where my life felt finally like it was what I had always hoped and dreamed. I'm now a mother of a new baby. I've got the love of my life. I have these big, beautiful windows. My husband and I built window seats all around the sunroom. I mean, it could not, I would have stayed there forever. But my husband's work took us elsewhere, and we kept the house. We were renting it out, thinking maybe someday we'll come back, or we'll Airbnb it and then stay in it maybe a week or two a year, or I don't know. But anyway, in the end, this year decided, as I was doing some studying, curious who of you also listened to Be Magnetic. I love To Be Magnetic. I joined that program. I've been off and on in that program for several years now. But I did the money challenge this last year, and then did a lot of numbers crunching and realized it was just more financially a good idea to sell the house. For us, we could take that money, the equity in the house, and then put it into investments, which I will tell you about sometime, because I'm obsessed with Bitcoin and have been for 9 years since we bought it back in January of 2017. So yes, I will be doing an episode on my philosophy on money and investing and what our experiences have been like. Okay, so back to the Colorado house. It was the pinnacle of my motherhood. And then after that, we moved to Georgia. Pandemic, I became pregnant on purpose. And then the shit show happened the next 4 years of my life. And that's when I'm talking about, trouble with the pregnancy, lost a baby, lost my faith, lost myself for a while, struggled to be a mom of 3 kids, probably because I had postpartum depression and was trying to feel like myself in my body. I was trying to decide what I was going to do about my business and my podcast at the time. And my drive then to now do music and pursue music, which was not in my plan entirely. I mean, music has always been a part of my life, but now I was pursuing it in a different way, trying to really dive into it more, and which in the end ended up needing to be the case because I needed to heal my relationship with my dad. And I didn't know that it was through my music that would happen. So literally up until this year, even it's January right now, but up until a couple of months ago, that Colorado house was the pinnacle of my motherhood, of my life. And I knew as time went on, I was like, okay, we're selling this house. Financially, it makes sense for us. And I've got to let it go. And it was so painful for me to let it go. It was, oh my gosh, a roller coaster selling that house. We went there in October, and that made it hard for me again. We spent the week going back and forth to the house, spending time with our dear friends who lived there. And I was like, I don't know if I can sell this house. I love this house so much. This is where I felt the most peace and calm and love and joy all in one place for a year and a half. And then I realized that I was, idolizing this past part of my life, and that wasn't healthy for me. I needed something to look forward to. I needed something exciting. And we had bought land in August, so we had been trying to decide where are we going to land permanently. And I can get into this more deeply in a different episode, but we had land in Utah, and ultimately the last couple of years, I was feeling a lot of anxiety about it. It didn't seem to quite align with my husband and I's ultimate goals in life. And we had been making plans on that for like 5 years, almost like several years. We had been making plans for that land in Utah. And then the last couple of years, it just wasn't feeling right anymore. And I couldn't let it go that it didn't feel right, but I also couldn't let it go that like we've been making plans here. Like I need to stick to this. Like I can't just pivot when we already have like house plans pretty much almost done. But we all know what they say about marriage. It's like, if it doesn't feel right and you just don't think you should do it, then it's okay to leave at the altar. It's okay. It's better to not go through with it and to like be embarrassed that you had to leave right at the altar than to go through with something only to cause much more pain and suffering later and a lot more hardship later. So I was like, okay, this is my marriage at the altar thing where, like I'm going to like walk away from this land, even though there's so many things I love about it. It would be near my husband's family, which was in many, many ways would have been so much fun. It was like 3 hours from my brother, like so many things, like 4 hours from my side of the family. Like there were so many reasons why this actually felt like it would be a good idea. And yet I had to follow that intuition that said, this isn't the right place. Like this is not the right place for your family. So we pivoted. We've always loved California from the minute that we lived here, like a year after we were married. And we found land in Temecula. And it's like 20 minutes from Nick's sister, whom we adore, and like 8 minutes from the old town downtown of Temecula. Like it really is location-wise just so amazing. It's got gorgeous views. It's 24 acres. And it feels like the right place. Like it feels like the most aligned option for our family. And we're so excited. Like I am so excited. And that is actually one way that I know I've made a good choice is when I'm really excited about it after I've made the choice. It doesn't have to be like immediate. I can still feel a little bit of anxiety about it like right after, or maybe just like, did we make the right decision? But if the feeling starts to grow, that is like excitement and good after I make a decision, I know I am on the path that is aligned for my life and for my family's life. And you know what's crazy is like I have a friend who I'd go hiking with every week here in Alamo, California. And what's crazy is that she also just found her dream property and moved away. And she's like an hour and a half away from here. But I just feel like these intuitive nudges to find what feels like the most aligned location or path, like those are worth listening to. We have one life to live. And if you can move toward the thing that actually feels good in your body, then do that. But in order to fully process and move into this new idea of our new property, I had to let go of my Colorado house. I had to let go emotionally. I fought it so hard. But financially, like I crunched the numbers. I knew it was the best thing for us. And so following your intuition is not always easy. In fact, it can be extremely, excruciatingly painful to let go. But once I know something in my body, once I know it's something I have to do, I can't not do it. Otherwise, my 80-year-old self is looking at me going, if you don't do this, you will regret it. Like I literally get this perspective in my mind of like future me going, I'm sorry, but you will regret not doing this. And sometimes you're leaving amazing things on the table. Rarely is it like, oh, this decision is entirely good and this one is entirely bad. Like that's not usually how it works. It's like you are choosing between two good options. Which one feels the most aligned? So by getting clear on what I wanted, getting clear on what I needed to let go of, it gave me more clarity on how to make space on my plate for what I really wanted. So in order for me to really make my new pinnacle, which was my new goal, I was like, I don't want to look back on my life in Colorado and have that be the pinnacle of my life. I have grown so much. Our family has grown so much. I want to create a new pinnacle. So that became my goal. I'm like, how am I going to imagine this new property as a new pinnacle? How am I going to not even as a pinnacle, but just as something to fully embrace and enjoy and sink into, because I was excited about the property. It was great land. And, there were so many things that my parents did in their life where they looked back and said, oh, my mom was like, I wish I would have gone and seen my aunt when I had a chance to. She invited me out to Hawaii where she lived. And I didn't do it because I was too shy. And my dad, he had his own regrets that he vocalized in his life. And I'm like, I've learned so much from them in that way, where I have decided that I don't want to live my life in regret. It could be that like the most aligned decision is to stay in California now, and maybe that will change over time. I have no idea. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is that moving Colorado house off the plate has opened my heart to fully diving into what this next experience could be like, and also letting go of the Utah property, visually, like imagining, because what it was going to be like. Now I have this visual of what it's going to be like in California, and I'm so excited about it. The ultimate letting go experience is death, but we have lessons in our life along the way that teach us the value of letting go, the value of letting what was be and moving forward, because we can't move forward when we're holding on to something from the past. It doesn't exist anymore. It literally is a dream. What exists is current now. It's even like people who only imagine the future and they can't imagine the now. Now, it's great. Imagining the future and visualizing it, that's great. And making decisions to lead you toward that. But the now, the current, the letting go of the past is what allows us to open up for the future, for the next stage, like we talked about in Metamorphic last week. Like, that is where the true power of life exists. It's in the letting go, the bravery. You know what I said to my mom the next morning when I walked in and she had passed? I just stroked her head and I said, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I miss you so much, but I am so proud of you. Wow, that must have been so hard to let go and move on, to trust that everything is going to be okay, to trust that everything is working out for your good. I'm so proud of you. Way to be so brave. As always, thanks for exploring with me this idea of letting go. We are meant for this life to grow and develop and continue forward. And there are specific ways in which we can do that most effectively. Letting go is one of the most effective ways to move forward in life. My name is Andrea McKee. This is the 1010 podcast that releases every Wednesday at 10:10 a.m. Eastern Time, even though I'm on the Pacific Coast. I got to release it at 10:10. It doesn't make sense not to. In the show notes, you are going to find discount codes and companies that I love. They are sponsoring this episode today. Coinbase, Airbnb, Primal Bod. Check them out. These are things that have absolutely changed my life, which is why I'm putting them in the show notes so that they can change your life too. If this episode moved you in any way, please share. It is through sharing that this podcast will grow, and I'm so excited for it to grow. Thank you for being here. Make sure to hit the follow button, and I'll see you next week.